Hi all, Darren from DA Components. This week's video is all about the one-shot remote. If you see my video that we did last week, it was all about pumps and different outlets, ranging from the smaller one up to the chemical one that we do. So I'm going to carry that trend on to talk about the one-shot remote. As you might see, there's some banners behind the back of me. Now these are the original banners that I got made within like 3 or 4 days back in 2015 when I did my first cleaning show. When Mark got in touch with me, "Hi Darren, you're doing some controllers? Feel free to come down with a rucksack of controllers." So I did. So what I'm going to be talking about is the one-shot remote. I do believe the one-shot remote comes in itself when you're working at height, if you're on a tower or something, if you're possibly doing soft washing a roof, so that would come in handy. So what you will see in the industry is one of my all-time favourites is the Univalve. It fits inside the first section of all the poles, or most of the poles, and as soon as you pull the hose, the spring-loaded lever just pulls down and turns the water off and turns it on. And that's like the mechanical way of doing it. So the Univalve is actually fitted in the first section of your pole. And I'm just going to show you where that would be for the guys who've not used one, or even in getting into window cleaning themselves. And there it is there. All right, my section of hose might be a bit long, but it does the trick. So that's the Univalve fitted in the first section of your window cleaning pole. I do believe the one-shot remote comes in itself when you're working at height, if you're on a tower or something, if you're possibly doing soft washing a roof, so that would come in handy. So what you will see in the industry is one of my all-time favourites is the Univalve. It fits inside the first section of all the poles, or most of the poles, and as soon as you pull the hose, the spring-loaded lever just pulls down and turns the water off and turns it on. And that's like the mechanical way of doing it. So the one-shot remote is a electrical device which is wired through the controller into the pump, and you have a remote which is, you can attach it to a lanyard, and then you can have that to turn the pump on and off. So I'm just going to talk about how that's wired in and how that performs on your pump. So what we have set up now is if this was my battery. So I'm just going to wire it in now and to just show you how that is wired in. They do come with instructions as well, so it tells you everything, where the cables need to go, and fuse holders are the most important bit as well. And I'll talk about that. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, is get the red cable from the receiver, and then I'm going to get the red cable from the controller. These go together obviously to your battery for demonstration purposes. This is my battery, so I'm just going to put a little clips here, just testing clips, just to hold these together. So that's your positive from your controller, your positive from the receiver unit onto the battery. So then I'm just going to get the black from the receiver, and then I'm just going to get the black from the controller. For testing purposes again, I'm just going to use my little clips just to keep these two together to get some voltage through them. So there's my positive and negative done to the battery. Just before you switch everything on, we'll attach the other cables in a minute. Just before you actually switch everything on, very important that you fit the fuse holder. And I always say to the customers to fit the fuse holder closer to the battery. The reason for that, if you get a voltage spike or any surge of current coming in, if the fuse holders fitted here, there's only going to be that amount of cable to sort. If your fuse holder's 3 meters away from the battery, you've got all that cable that needs to be assessed. Just make sure you fit the fuse holder. Now, to fit the fuse, all you need to do is just cut the cable and just push each end in, fold it over with a pair of pliers and crimp it down to either click. That's the most important bit, is the fuse holder. So what we have for demonstrations is we've just got positive, we've got the negative, just ready to go. You will see on the receiver is another brown cable. Okay, now this brown cable, doesn't really matter which one is which if you do end up cutting them off, but there's no reason to cut them off. But if you do, it doesn't really matter which cable's round, because there is a female and there's a male bullet connector. But if you get the V16 and you get the one-shot remote, what you will find, the brown cable on the V16 is a female connector. Now the bullet connector on the one-shot remote just fits it. So that's the positive from the switching positive from the receiver to the controller. Now you have a spare brown cable. Now this becomes a positive cable. Now this will go to the red of your pump. Now the red of your pump is a bullet connector, and you just push that together. So now we have the receiver unit fully wired up. We just have one more connection to make, and then we're going to switch everything on and show you how to use the one-shot remote. So we have the negative, which is your black from your pump. Now with this, just goes to your normal blue cable on your controller, and it just push fits into bullet connectors. Last but not least, same again, the one-shot remote, like I said, does come with instructions, so you can just follow the cables round where each cable goes to, but the actual receiver still needs an inline fuse as well. Okay, so this one needs to go on the brown cable going to the controller. So you've already connected to the controller, just find the brown cable and see which one goes to the controller, and on this instance the fuse holder needs to be close enough to the controller unit this time. Exactly the same, just cut the cable, you slide it into each end of the fuse holder, fold it round, and then it ends up being like that, and that's where the fuse comes into position. So that's fuse holder for the receiver for the one-shot remote. So now we're near enough all wired in. Now to get the actual fob to work or anything to come on, you need to switch the controller on first. So I'm just going to switch my bench power supply, which is obviously for demonstration purposes. Just going to switch this on. So now I actually have 12.4 volts. So that's perfect. So I am going to switch the V16 on. So switch the V16 on. And I'm going to set the flow, and what you'll find is the pump is actually running. So if you want to switch the pump off now, all you need to do is press the button on the fob once, switches the pump completely off. Going back to what I said earlier, I really do think this is where this comes in its hand in its own, when you actually, let's say you're on a 3-story building and you're doing soft washing roofs, and you don't have to come down and go and switch the controller off. Or if you use the Univalve, I do believe that the seals inside is not chemical resistant. It's only for pure water, I do believe. So this is where I think this could come in handy for when you have a fob on your top of your over the lanyard and you press the button again. it switches the pump completely on. Now I just switch the pump off. Now I do believe the range of this as well, I think it's about 60 to 70 in range of sight. However, I have had a few customers actually, they did a bungalow and the van was at the front of the bungalow and he went down the alleyway and he went to the back of it as if like a laundry he was cleaning, and he had his brush up there and he was soft washing the roof and he had it on his neck and he just pushed it, didn't even turn around or anything, and it worked. So that's the one shot remote that I do believe it can come in handy in different applications. I hope you found the video interesting with the one shot remote, and if you have any other suggestions for videos, please send me a message in the comments below. Thank you very much. Darren Hansborough from DA Components.